All right, morning everybody. Browns lose in the London game by 4, and a last few seconds, Minnesota scores, and the Browns really can't do anything on their last drive. They did have that last play where they could have gotten out of bounds. He just made the guy made the tackle. Game over. Browns lose by 4. So, you know, this was a winnable game. This was yet again another winnable game. And the Browns they let it slip away. This came down to who was going to make that play to end the game. And it looked like for a while it was either going to be Miles or it was going to be Justin Jefferson. Turned out to be neither. It turned out to be Jordan Addison on that last drive, who I believe made his season debut last week. I believe sat out the entire first quarter or maybe even the first half today. But as soon as he came in, you noticed he made a bunch of plays, and that's a credit to the Vikings offense. Say what you want. That's one of the better offenses in the league. No matter who's at quarterback, honestly. If this game proved anything, it's J.J. McCarthy's not. He's a system quarterback. He's a Brock Purdy. And the people that were talking about J.J. McCarthy like he was a franchise guy, no. The Vikings are another one of these teams that can get, a Carson Wentz type quarterback and make them look like, Jalen Hurts. And Jalen Hurts is probably more of a franchise, or not even a franchise. He's probably more of a system guy than a franchise guy. But McCarthy is not, he's not going to be a Josh Allen or a Patrick Mahomes or anything like that. Which is fine, because the Vikings don't really need a franchise guy. They need, what they succeed on is, system quarterbacks that don't make mistakes. And that's exactly what Carson Wentz did today. He didn't throw any interceptions. He got sacked a few times, but it wasn't bad because obviously the Vikings won today. So he did his job today. And it is what it is. And this is going to be the consequence of the Browns wanting to play this style of football that they do. When you don't have an offense that's capable of putting up 20 points consistently, you're going to live on these margins in these games. You're going to play a Pittsburgh style of offense where you have to rely on your defense to hold the opposing offense under 20 points. And the Browns did a good job of that up until 30 seconds into up until the last 30 seconds of the game. And, that's going to be the price you pay. And when the Steelers do this, and the Steelers are great at doing this, when living on the margins and winning these games by 3, 4, 2, 1 points. And they are awesome at making plays, especially on defense. When was the last time the Steelers were in a one-possession game when the Steelers were in the lead by one possession and the opposing offense was driving down the field in the last 2 minutes and the Steelers lost that game? You don't see it happen a lot, if really at all. Either the Steelers get an interception or TJ Watt makes a big play. And none of that happened. Instead, our best corner, Denzel Ward, gets, I don't know what that was on the touchdown that was allowed. It looked like he thought he had safety help, and the safety just wasn't over there. It was a good route. It was a good play call by the Vikings, but it kind of looked like Denzel thought that he had the underneath rather than what was behind him. And if that's on Denzel, that's on Denzel. If that's on Ronnie Hickman or whoever was supposed to be behind him, that's on them. But, what do you expect from this offense that is starting their rookie quarterback, and his first game is in London at 9:30 in the morning, our time, and then whatever time it was in London during that time. You got to deal with the time change and the different environment, and there was a lot of Vikings fans there, so I'm sure there was a split split environment there. But neutral environment is what I'm trying to say. And, you gotta hold them there. You gotta make a play. Myles Garrett was on a milk carton all game today. I don't think he had a sack in this game. He had the chase down against Wentz, but that I think that's considered a scramble. He got maybe a yard, if not got to the line of scrimmage. But that's not a sack for Myles. And he's got to make those plays when you're in these last 2-minute drives. Someone's got to come up with a big play. And the Browns didn't do that. The Browns had every chance to put this game away. And they couldn't. Dylan Gabriel sails passes on the... And he did good. Considering that this was his first ever start, he did pretty good today. But in the last few drives, he started sailing these passes over people's heads instead of the and the Vikings just sold out to stop the run because they knew Dylan Gabriel wasn't really a threat to throw the ball. And Quinshon Judkins is probably one of the better running backs in the league already, and he hasn't even played a full season yet. He was suspended, or not even suspended. He was not even on the team during week 1. And he's already the best running back the Browns got in their roster, and he might be competing for the second best running back in the AFC North behind Derrick Henry. He's that good. If not, he already is the second best running back in the AFC North. But he can only do so much. It's the same thing with the Guardians against the Tigers earlier this week. Jose Ramirez can only do so much. He is only one player. And when you only have one player that's producing on a consistent level, this is what happens. Teams will put a strategy around you to make you a non-factor in the game. And Quinshon Judkins had, I think, 90 or 100 yards rushing today. So he did his part. And the Vikings sold out to stop him when he was getting the ball. And he didn't really do much at the fourth quarter. But yet again, the Vikings sold out to stop him. So Dylan Gabriel's got to make a play. And he didn't today. Do you look at it in hindsight and maybe you run the ball on that 3rd and 11 and just force Minnesota to take a timeout, if not run 40 seconds off the clock? Sure. And then maybe Minnesota, has the field goal and we're going into overtime right now. That's not what happened. So, hindsight, sure. Do I like the play call on that 3rd and 11? No. I think you probably, if you're going to pass the ball, you pass it over the middle of the field, which is not normally something that Gabriel can really do, as we've seen today, because he's so freaking short. But, man, it was right there. And I'll say it again, when the Steelers live on these margins, someone makes a play on defense. And no one made a play today on defense. And I'm talking about, the 2-minute drive. We had the turnovers and, which is great. The fact that Alex Wright had that turnover in the beginning of the game, great. He's now starting to come out as, a guy that can be across from Myles Garrett. And that's going to open the door for not only Myles Garrett, but also Mason Graham in the middle. Sorry about that, but, you know what I'm saying? Myles Garrett needs to have another guy across from him that is consistently a threat to get to the quarterback. Because if not, teams are just going to absolutely, like Minnesota did today. You saw 3-4 guys, their only job was to block Myles Garrett, and then everyone else was just one-on-one. And Myles, even with that, Myles is getting to the quarterback. So Myles is going to get his sacks in. It's the consistency of the defensive line that, and, I'm splitting hairs here because our defensive line is one of the best in the NFL. But you got to make plays. You have to make plays when you're one-on-one. Because lines are going to focus more and more and more on Myles Garrett than you. So, and Alex Wright had a good game today. He just got to be more consistent. So same thing with Mason Graham, but he's a rookie. Rookie is at defensive tackles are notorious for having a little bit of a slow start, and he's done great this year. So I can only imagine with more and more reps at the NFL level, plus the whole offseason after the whole draft thing and the shock of it all being in the NFL, after he gets used to it, he'll probably be one of the better defensive tackles on the Browns for years to come. But, this was right here. This was a game that you 1,000% could have, and maybe you have an argument for should have won. This is a game that if you're going to play the style of Pittsburgh would have won this game. They did beat the Vikings last week in London. But now you got to go to Pittsburgh next week. You got to get off a flight. You got to go from London back to Cleveland. And then at the end of the week, you got to go to Pittsburgh, a game which is notorious for everything going wrong for the Browns. I'm not going to be surprised next week if I make a video either at halftime or during the postgame where I am flipping out because somebody got injured or, Gabriel threw a bunch of interceptions, but we were right there, and then just Pittsburgh made one more play than the Browns did, and we lose by a possession. That's not going to be surprising to me at all, because that's the game Pittsburgh plays. Next week is either going to be really close or Pittsburgh's going to blow us out. I do not see a world where the Browns blow out the Pittsburgh Steelers next week, which sucks to say because I would love nothing more than to blow out Pittsburgh and Aaron Rodgers. But this was a game that the Browns should have won, honestly. On paper, the Browns' defensive line should have 4 more sacks than they actually did. This was a team that had, I believe, 3 or 4 starters and maybe a backup offensive lineman out today. And Myles Garrett did close to nothing today. It's disappointing. It is. I thought that this defense, especially the defensive line, would have a much better day than they actually did. Now, they had a good day today, but I thought it would be better. Receivers really didn't do much. Njoku had a really good day today. He had the big hurdle and had the touchdown pass. But you got to score. You have to be able to put points up on the board, especially in the fourth quarter. Because the Browns, they had every shot. I'll say it again. They have every shot to put this game away. But they kept letting the Vikings get back in. And if you give a team enough shots, they're going to cash in on one of those opportunities. And unfortunately for the Browns, it was an opportunity that they didn't have enough time to respond to. This hurts. This sucks, but it's the life you're going to live if you want to live on margins like the Browns do. Like I've said this at the beginning of the season. If you want to live on the margin like Pittsburgh does, you got to have a decent offense, you have to have a great defense, and you have to have good special teams. Our special teams is okay right now. Bubba Ventrone still needs to be fired by the end of the year, if not sooner. But Schmidt looks okay. After week 1, he looks okay. Defense is still one of the best in the NFL, but the offense is putrid. Still one of the worst offenses in the NFL. How we go from the best defense or one of the best defenses in the NFL to probably the worst offense in the NFL, it's just mind-numbing. How just awful this Browns offensive system is. It's not even the system, it's just like, we don't have the playmakers that we do on defense. And that falls on, Deshaun Watson not turning out and that whole trade and the Browns not having first-round picks to use for 3 or 4 years, however long they spent their first-round picks on, to Texas. Or to Houston, to Houston. But that also falls on Andrew Berry not being able to, spot some gems on the offensive side of the ball like he does with the defensive side of the ball. Now, he got Judkins this year, but Judkins also had the issue at the beginning of the year with the domestic violence case. He was able to get, JOK and Carson Swessinger and Grant Delpit and all these guys. I don't know if actually Grant Delpit was an Andrew Berry draft pick, but you get my point. Martin Emerson was also one of his guys that he drafted. But you got to be able to consistently scout these gems that are in the second, third, fourth rounds on both sides of the ball. Because if you're just doing this on defense, then you're going to get exactly what the Browns have right now. And it's, best and worst offenses and defenses on the same team. And the defense doesn't score good points. The offense scores points. There's been multiple teams with bad defenses or, average defenses but great offenses make a run in the playoffs. I don't think there's ever been a team apart from the Jaguars from 2017 that's had a horrible offense. And even the Jags didn't even have a horrible offense. They had an okay offense that year. But, had one of the best defenses and a bottom half offense. You never see those teams make the playoffs or even make a run, let alone make a run. You see the teams with great offenses and okay defenses make a run. Because all that offense needs is for the defense to make one stop, and they're right back on you. And then you're in a hole that the offense just can't climb out of, and the defense can make plays because they only have to worry about the pass. But when your offense is, can't even make first down, can't even get a first down consistently, let alone go on scoring drives, your defense is going to get tired. And that's probably what happened today. Was the defense was out there for so long, they have to worry about Justin Jefferson because he made play after play after play today, especially in the third and fourth quarter, that other people are going to be able to make plays. Jordan Addison. So this was a game the Browns could have had, and it would have put our situation a lot better. We're not going to make the playoffs by any means, even if we won this game, but, at least you have a little bit of momentum going into the Pittsburgh game. Now the Browns yet again lose on a game that really the Browns should have won. All right, I had to stop myself from going on a little bit of a tangent there, but we're going to cut it off right here. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll be back next Saturday. Ohio State versus Illinois for the Yellow Buck Trophy. Kind of nervous about that game. It's big noon. It's in Champaign. And I don't know. We'll see. This could be, the close game that Ohio State fans have been kind of dreading at this point. So we'll be back for that. Cavs start soon. I won't be covering regular season basketball unless it's a national TV game maybe that's important, or maybe a game I go to, something like that. Won't be I won't do every game. Won't be really consistent, but still gonna be here doing football every week for Ohio State and Cleveland. No matter the record, no matter what happens, I'll be here. You control me. Do whatever you want to do. Do not care. But yeah, that's going to be it for today. Browns lose on a heartbreaker today in London against Minnesota. What you going to do?